Hey guys, welcome back to Building a Family Business here on Builder Funnel Radio. Wes and Brooks are joining me as usual today. And yeah, how's it going, guys?
Going great. Hey, thanks, man.
Going pretty well, Spence.
Good, good. Yeah, we thought about hitting record about 30 minutes ago, but we just, I think, saved you guys from a lot of nonsense. So, yeah. But the other day we were kind of talking about, I guess, just a cool opportunity that you guys had in college or around that time frame, and we were thinking about just family business and how that relates to different opportunities or ways you can create opportunities. So I guess that might be a good place to start. What were you guys doing in college, and I guess how did that all start in the building business?
Well, I guess I can start off, Brooks, and then you can just kind of fill in around the where I'm missing stuff. And so I think, Spence, what you're referring to is that so there's 5 kids in our family. So you have, on our side of the family, you've got 2 uncles, 3 uncles, 3 uncles and 2 aunts.
I guess you have 2 brothers. So.
Yeah. So anyway, when I was a senior in high school and getting ready to go off to college, or thinking about going off to college, in our family anyway, in our building experience, I think we've talked about this on previous podcasts, our father had gone through a pretty rough 10 years after the Boeing shutdown, had a big development that had just launched. And so he was in a pretty big workout with his lending partners and so on over a 10-year period. And so as we're about year 7 into that would be about the time I was ready to go off to college. I had 2 older sisters, one who had not gone off to college and one who had gone off to college. But our parents sat us down, and this would be 1977, I guess, 1977, and said, hey, guess what? There's really no more money. There isn't any money for college. Like, okay. And that's not probably an unusual conversation that families have. Like, hey, you know what? There's no money for college, or there's a little bit of money for college, and going to have to figure out a way through that. But what Dad suggested and put forth before us, and of course we said yes, because that's what you say, is simply
Sounds
that
good, Dad.
He said, hey, we know how to build houses. Why don't, at that time, as my older sisters, Heidi and Lori and myself said, why don't you guys start a partnership and build a house this summer? You can build a house, sell it, and make enough money to pay for a year of college. And so, like, okay, we have no clue. I'm a senior in high school. I've had all the usual jobs, like, working at the ice cream store and working at the movie theater and all the other typical jobs that you get to do when your family is in business for themselves, such as scrapping lots and weeding flower beds and planter strips and things like that.
Mulching was always my favorite.
Mulching. So all those fun things that make you say, I will never be in this business. We should probably have a little discussion about that at some point too, which is, how do you bring your kids along and get them interested, or see if there's interest. So we wrote up a 3-page partnership agreement for a little partnership called Puget Sound Builders. And Dad went out and he found us a lot in a very modest neighborhood, nice flat lot, which was super helpful. And I think in that first case, he did help us get the building permit and helped us with the loan at the bank. So,
so he helped provided the guarantee.
Yeah, he probably provided a guarantee for that loan. Now, just remember, this house ended up selling for $39,000, so or $37,000, somewhere in that range. So it kind of gives you a flavor for the time period. It was a little rambler, and what we had to do though is he said basically, hey, here's the plan, here's your permit, here's the lot, here's a carpenter named Dave, and Dave's going to help you. He's going to teach you how to do this. And then he just kind of walked away. So we had to do our own books. So we had to set up our own accounting So that was interesting. We had to learn how to schedule. We had to learn how to call subs. We had to, Dave taught us how to frame the house. So we framed the house, we roofed the house, we sided the house, we painted the house, we set the forms. And the things that we did not do on the inside, we didn't lay carpet, we didn't set cabinets, we didn't do any trim work. But really, to do all those things took us all summer to do that. And the house wasn't quite finished when we tootled off to school in the fall, but wrapped up pretty quickly and sold and provided for that first year. So anyway, that was a great experience because it really allowed, that's the first time that I had experienced the business as a business instead of, scrapping lots, cleaning out houses, all those things that make you say, yuck, I don't want to do this. So it was an incredible education. I mean, to go off to college and have the people that you meet at college going, yeah, I worked at the pool, or I worked here, I did this, I did that. And go, well, I built a house, and they're like, whoa, that's pretty incredible. And so we just rolled that forward. The next summer we built 3 houses, I believe. And then that one summer we did 5. And then Brooks came along, so Heidi graduated from college, Lori went to college at the same time that I did after skipping a year. And so Brooks came along and joined the Puget Sound Builders. And then Todd came along and joined Puget Sound Builders, the partnership. And our older sisters rolled off and then we built more houses. So that went all the way through our college years and really gave us a firm foundation in the building business. It was,
I think it went from 77 to 83, 84. It was pretty much done by the time I got halfway through school. And by then Wes, you had gone to work for Dad in the construction business, and we ended up.
Yeah, that's probably right. But you did get that full exposure to building houses. And I think works probably for you. You're like, oh, okay, great. I'd like to build houses when I get out of college.
Well, it was our opportunity to go to college. So you were interested in going to college, then
right.
If you're interested in going to college, then that's what you did. And I think as we talk about family business, building a family business, is if you're running your own business, what's important about this story is what are the opportunities you can create for, if you have children that are what are the opportunities you can create for them in your business, whatever kind of business it is, whether it's construction and I think that was a critical piece that was, given to us, which is, what are those opportunities? And it may be for our listeners, some are like, I'm just trying to get going in business. I can't even conceive of what, providing this opportunity, or if I'd be able to, or if my kids are, my kids are 3 and 5. So this just seems way off. So there's, I think, lessons from it that you can learn, which are maybe there's someone who would be willing to help you working on your business, because that's really what that was. I mean, in this case, it was our parents, giving us that leg up. But I really think there's lots of people in your community, people that you interact with, they're willing to help. And it's being willing to ask and say, gee, would you help me with this? I'm trying to do a better job with my business, or I'm trying to grow my business. And I think it's just, so many people have helped me in my career where all you did is ask and like, oh yeah, I'd be glad to help. And that's really it. In this situation with this opportunity with Puget Sound Builders and building houses, that was a situation where our parents were very willing to help give us that opportunity, which we're very grateful for. And it's been, a big part of our careers. But even if you don't have that coming from your parents or a sibling, there's people there that will help. And it's just opening I think that's, looking back at it now, we were lucky enough to have that opportunity really given to us. But looking back, it's like, well, over my career, it's like if I just asked more for help, And so, there's lots of people that have really been helpful that are willing to give. I mean, so I think it's just an interesting thing to think about as you're thinking about your own. Everyone thinks about their own family business.
Yeah, I think I like that point, Brooks. And I think when we wear our parenting hats, if you're wearing your parenting hat, that since you do have this thing that's, your business, you can use that business as a great way to help your kids develop, I would call adult job skills. Because we all, everyone has those, the paper route, all those kinds of things that you do that are all super valuable for when you're raising your kids, to instill in them a work ethic and working for somebody else and showing up on time and doing a good job and all those types of things. But at some point, because you have a business, you may be able to provide opportunities that allow them to develop some of those higher skills that would be that you would see in a job that would be more of a permanent type of job, or moving into a career. And so I urge everybody, if you're having your kids work in the business, but you only let them do the things that you're going, okay, well, here you get to do all the unskilled labor stuff that I don't want to do. So for instance, we had a direct mail company, and that we bought from my wife's parents. And so she has many memories growing up as a kid working in that business. And it was, okay, well, we're stuffing envelopes and doing all those types of things and doing all the work to get the job out the door, but it didn't have anything at all to do with how does this business work. So if you never provide that, then there's really no interest in that business, because all you see is the less fun parts of that business.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Spence.
Oh, I was just going to say, as you guys were talking about this story of, Puget Sound builders, I like it. Two things that stand out. One is, your dad kind of getting creative and being entrepreneurial and saying, okay, we have limited funds for college, so how can I create an opportunity? And I think as entrepreneurs and business owners, you can always find there's a creative solution somewhere, and I really like that part of it. It's a creative way to solve that problem. But then it's also, the other thing I really like about it is I like win-win deals or win-win-win deals. And in this case, that felt like one of those as well. So it was a win for you guys, got to go to college, but you also got real, experience, like you said, kind of higher income skills versus lower income skills. And then it was a win for maybe the business, or a win for solving the problem, having the business hat on or the dad hat on and saying, okay, we can do this. And so like everybody won. And I think you can look at, so I like the put your, entrepreneur hat on, get creative when you're trying to find a solution, but then look for the win-win opportunities, because oftentimes you can step out of a scenario and everybody moves ahead. So anyway, just wanted to jump in with those couple.
Yeah, no, that's a great point, Spencer. And even if as entrepreneurs, people think, well, they maybe just understand enough about how to start a business or run a business. Had friends of mine that they would help their kids set up a lawn mowing business. Mm-hmm. And all you really provided was just that impetus to say, hey, here's an opportunity to mow lawns over the summer, and we can buy a lawnmower and you can pay me $10 a week to buy that lawn. And I've had friends who they would get their kids started, and some had real aptitude for it, and they'd end up with a whole lawn mowing business. They ran all the way through high school, junior high school, college. One guy even sold his business.
Awesome.
He really had that. He was, as even as a young person, had that knack, that entrepreneurial drive, and so he's like, oh, yeah, I see how this works. And all of a sudden, he had 3 or 4 guys working for him, and so I think even if if you feel like your business doesn't lend itself to, bringing your kids in or having them work in it at a younger age, there's opportunities to take that entrepreneurial business sense and maybe create other opportunities for your kids to do different things.
Brooks, as you were saying that, I was thinking about you know, the family dinner around the dinner table, and you're talking about your day and talking about work and whatever it happens to be. But you can take those opportunities, like you said, even if you don't have a job for your son or daughter in the business, or they're not doing something for the business right now. Let's say that they are, you know, working at the ice cream shop or they're mowing lawns. You can take that lawn mowing business and say, what I'm trying to get to is try to put it in a bigger context or a bigger picture. So instead of saying, well, you can go out and mow lawns and you can make $10 for mowing a lawn, so go out and do that. You can sit down with your son or daughter and go, okay, well, let's talk about how that looks in a business plan. Let's talk about how are you going to track whether you're really making money or not, whether this lawn mowing thing is a good thing. Okay, well, what's a basic profit and loss look like? Oh, well, what's the revenue? Oh, I mowed this month, I mowed 50 lawns at, $20 a lawn. So what's that? $2,000. $1,000. So $1,000. Well, let's write that down, Johnny. That's your revenue. Oh, how much time did you spend? How many hours? What did you have for supplies? Oh, here are your hard costs. So you can use any job as this opportunity, as a teaching moment to kind of take it up to another level, and that just helps expand their thought about what's possible in the world. And for me, Puget Sound Builders really did that. Because we never talked about my other jobs, around the table or anything like that. In fact, we really didn't talk about the building business at all around our table growing up. But all of a sudden we're like, oh, we're actually in this business, we're running this business, and we're figuring this out. And it just kind of like was blinders off. It's like, oh, this isn't okay.
Well, an interesting thing too is you can also, any jobs, as you mentioned that, Wes, any jobs that your kids have, you can talk about the business of the job they're in.
That's right.
And I think that's always the interesting thing is, I was always asking the kids, well, how do you think this business is making money?
Mm-hmm. And
then we would have that discussion, even if you're just working, slinging ice cream or working at the movie theater, or but how is this business making money, and talking about that. And so even if you're not able to create that opportunity to work for your business or something, you can still, impart that education about how you make money in business. Because for some folks, there may not be a possibility of growing the business to that size where they can bring their kids into the business, but there's still a lot of teachable moments.
That's right. Yeah, if they can learn that skill, Brooks, I think of just as you said, which is, hey, asking that question over and over and over, how does that business make money? And having that conversation, making them think about that and go, okay, then if I know how this business makes money, then I know how to add value to that business. Excellent. So now as an employee, I can figure out a path that I can really help. And that's going to help my career path. It's going to help my earning potential, whether I ever own my own business or not. Right.
Do they teach this stuff in school? Adding value, stuff like this? Yeah.
Well, they do in college, depending on, if you get into a good business department at college. I don't know, certainly not my high school experience.
No, I think that's part of the challenge. So you're really some of this stuff can start very early in, elementary school, junior high, high school, because depending on, the relationship you have with your kids, they might be checking out by the time they're 16 and they're not really hearing what you're saying. And they may not come back till they're 40. You never know.
Got to get Carter going now then.
Yeah, you got
18 months. He's close.
But at your point, Wes, about adding value is a very good one. In that, passing that on, which is how can you as an employee, if you may or may not, be interested in owning your own business, but you might work for a bigger company, that understanding of how business works and how profit is made, and you can bring that to your position. Those are the things that are going to keep you in a job when there's layoffs and there's recessions. Because if you can really show that you and show to management and the higher ups, however big the company is, that, oh, this person really understands how we make money here. And I think it makes a huge difference, because if management understands, like, oh, this person really understands, how we make money, then they're going to be the person that stays.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah. And I wanted to come back to that win-win or win-win-win thing you brought up before. I just thought of a kind of a small example of that. So, when your younger brother, Blake, right, got out of college and he was looking for work and started looking, he'd had the usual jobs, working as a busser, those types of things, delivering pizza. So college education, great. Job market, not so great.
Yeah, 2011.
And so, and so if you remember, you were starting Builder Funnel. It wasn't called Builder Funnel, but we were working on the whole inbound marketing concept and starting to develop that. And so we said to Blake, hey, why don't you come on? It's easier to find a job if you have a job. So why don't you come on and sell, just do cold call prospecting and get on the phone, and we'll provide you with some sales training and some practice and all of that. And then you'll develop some valuable skills. It'll help the company because we need this work done. It's not forever if you don't want it to be. And so he came in, did a great job, and did a lot of dialing for dollars and learned the sales process and how to do that. We learned a lot about the sales process as well when he was doing it. And then he got to a point where he said, well, you know what? I don't think this is going to be my long-term, strategy of what I want to do. And we said, great. Then why don't you just go part-time, spend half your time looking for another job? And that's what he did. He got a great job in sales, amazingly enough. So that worked out really well, but it was a win-win because there was a need in the company and he needed some help and some skill development, and you're able to give him a leg up. So you may have opportunities in your own business for your kids where it's transitional and you're not going, well, if you come to work for me, you're taking over the business. So, it's you're in or you're out. You're saying, no, come in, but let's have a strategy and a plan. We recognize what we're trying to do here. If we can get these skills in place for you, that's going to help you. If you can do this for us, it's going to help the company, and everyone walks away winning.
Yeah. And I think, listening to you guys talk about the different examples, I think that's another good one. There's different ways to structure it. So you could do something purely commission based, which it sounds like building homes was, right? It wasn't like you guys were getting paid by the hour, or maybe you were, no, it was go build the homes, and then the money comes in when you sell it, and then that will pay for college. So that's an opportunity. Or you can do it just purely, hey, there's this internship opportunity or part-time opportunity, and the goal is just building skills. So hey, there's no payment here, but you're building real skills, and it might lever you into that next job or something that you're trying to get into. Or you could do an hourly and work it out. So for people listening, they're going, oh, I couldn't afford to pay for something. There's other ways. And if it is family, a lot of time what you're trying to do is help that, that person build skills and put themselves in a better spot. And that better spot could look very different depending on what they're trying to do. But I know you guys have put together several internships over the years for family, different people. I guess, I'm curious how you guys approached creating those internships, where the idea came from, and what have you learned that if somebody's kind of going, okay, I want to maybe provide some opportunities to family members or whoever, is there a good way to approach that, Brooks?
Yeah, the way we approached it is that in our business, there was, partners with my brother, Todd, and our wives, Heather, Julie. And so we approached it that, hey, anybody who was interested, whether it could be, son or daughter or niece or nephew, anybody interested, we were willing to put together some kind of internship in the summer or whenever. And so I'm not sure, I can't quite remember how many people ended up working for us, but probably 10 different situations where people would come work in the summer. And so we would create, based on the need that each year, we'd say, oh, well, we have these needs. It's something we don't have time to do in the business, but it's something we think needs to be done. So one year, my son, our oldest son, he wrote a book because we needed a book on how to build a custom home. So he wrote a book, so
I remember that book. I've got one on the shelf over here. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that one. Yeah, that was a good
So
one.
I guess we had done one on how to build a custom home, and then we needed one. We're going in the renovation business. We thought it was a great tool, so we wrote one on how to renovate a home. So he, over the summer, wrote that book, and he's a mechanical engineer, but he figured that all out and did that because that was our need, and we couldn't afford to pay someone to ghostwrite a book. So he dug in, and he needed a job, and we needed it done, and it was probably a miserable summer for him,
But you know what? There's not many mechanical engineers that can say they've written a book.
But did go on his resume.
Yeah.
And it was a conversation point when he then moved on in his last 2 years of college, did internships for a mechanical engineering company. And
those engineers, they need good communicators. So that probably was a real differentiator,
I think it was helpful, but we went through that every year and would come up with a different plan. Another summer, we had a daughter who wrote our accounting procedures manual because she was an accounting major, so that worked beautifully. So those are a couple examples from.
Yeah, I remember I interned, and I think you had just purchased a sales system or something, and so it was like figuring out the whole flow of it and what are all the stages and follow-up procedures, and so it seems like you've used internships to knock out kind of projects like, hey, this project, it would take me a while, I'd really have to get my head into it, but if you've got 3 months to kind of work your way through it, then you come out the other side and you've got that in place.
Yeah, and probably, I don't know. Yeah, Spence, for your situation, you probably showed up the first day and said, well, this could be a terrible 3 months, but we'll get our way through it,
Yeah. Well, you made up for it with all the taco time runs for lunch.
That's exactly right. Yeah. Can't go wrong with taco time.
Yeah. I think that idea of a project-based internship is a good one because the intern comes out of it with a sense of pride and accomplishment that they finish something versus the kind of internship where you just go in and, oh, I'm working in this department and you're there. And I remember doing an internship like that where just you're not really doing anything or accomplishing anything. You don't feel that way anyway for the company. And so you don't come away with as much learning. So I really like that project idea. Spence, did you do any other internships besides that? I remember.
Well, I
did, or
one
maybe that was you did some.
I did one for you, so I'm glad you remembered that one. Yeah.
I know I didn't remember that. No.
But that was one where it was what you were kind of describing. I bounced around. I think I spent a week in each department, and I would kind of shadow the manager in that department. And I feel like that gives you a little overview of different areas, but you don't dive super deep. Yeah. And so you get some context as to the different parts of the business, but then I don't think I walked away with completing any big projects or anything like that.
And I think I modeled that internship after one that I did in college where I was working for a nonprofit and I worked through the different departments, and probably not the best model, right? It's too surfacey and you don't get down in the weeds enough. I think a good internship allows people to get down in the weeds and really understand a little bit more of how it works. But then every once in a while you pull way up and look at how that fits into the bigger picture. So someone has to be, whoever's running the internship, or someone has to provide that context, I think, at some point. Just to give you an idea of how many different types of weird little internships you can do. So Spencer's, your younger sister, Casey, when she was going into her senior year in college, I took 2 years off and went to teach in the business department at our alma mater, Principia College. And that's where Casey was attending, and I had to develop a class and called Integrated Principles of Business or something. And so I had a summer to develop that class. And so I dragged Casey in and said, well, you're a student. I need you to help me with this class. I need you to help me organize this class. I need you to give me feedback on the exercises. I need feedback. And so she did a terrific job of organizing me and giving me good feedback on everything that I wrote. And then luckily it turned out later, we didn't know what happened, but she ended up being a teacher's assistant in that class. And so then she could see the results of all the work that she had done on the front end to help me put the class together. And I think she found that pretty helpful, but kind of an oddball sort of internship. So you can really do just about anything to come up with an internship.
Yeah, I think that was a great example. I'd forgotten all about Casey doing that. Now I remember, like, oh yeah, that's right, she did do that. I think even if your business is starting out and you're thinking, well, these are great ideas, but I don't have any of these opportunities, just because you're scrapping to get, to make it. Try to be open to anybody you interact with, your vendors, trades, suppliers, that they have opportunities where they would be willing. It's just asking that question and saying, you're not saying, hey, I'm looking for a job for one of my kids or a nephew or a niece. It's, hey, do you guys have something you need to get done that you really can't afford to get done? And everybody has that. Everybody can sit down and think about, yeah, I've got something I need to get done that I'm willing to pay someone, a lower wage so they can learn, or even, a higher wage, but I just need someone to do it and I don't know who to ask. And, if I had to ask a professional, it might be a $20,000 thing and I just can't afford that. It's like Spencer, when you do that internship for us, I couldn't afford a $50,000 sales system, but I could afford to hire someone smart like you to say, okay, hey, figure this out for me.
And he was at a point where he really would work for Taco Time.
I know, it turned out. Yeah, I didn't realize it would work just for Taco Time. Otherwise, I would have.
Yeah, I know. Hey, you're gonna house me and you're gonna feed me. Like, we're good. Let's roll.
I think I was just thinking about that. Thinking about work for lodging or for transportation. One time we had a nephew who needed a job in high school, and he just needed a place to be at that point, and but he didn't have transportation, so we ended up buying a $3,000 beater truck that he could get back and forth to his house from. And we were able to afford to do that, so that was a great thing. And he ended up just working construction that summer, scrapping lots or doing whatever. But it was I'll have to go back and ask him whether he thought it was a great transition or not. But that was an opportunity we were able to provide that was out of nowhere, which was just like, oh, we can do that. And we probably could have provided more guidance, I'm sure, at the time, but you're scrambling around trying to run your business. So it's in retrospect, you're like, well, yeah, I should have done more, could have done more. But anyway, so there is different opportunities you don't even think about.
Yeah. And you guys have been on kind of both sides of the equation. And I guess, I don't know, you probably wouldn't call Puget Sound Builders a internship, but it was an opportunity, and so I'm curious, as you guys kind of think back, being on both sides, either creating the opportunity or being given the opportunity, whatever that looked like, is there a good way, just like a framework or kind of some general concepts or thoughts for people to think through how to create or look for those opportunities? We've listed a bunch of examples, but is there a way to set these up so that they are kind of that win-win that we're all looking for?
I don't know if there's a particular, most of the ones that we've done have been pretty organic. They just, like, okay, there's a need. But I guess one way you could maybe do it is sit down there and take the old white sheet of paper and draw a line down the middle of it and write the person that you're thinking about for that internship or opportunity on the left side and put your business on the right side. And then on the right side, just make a list of all the things that you need in your business, things that have to be done or has to be taken care of. And then on the left side, just from your observation, and you could even discuss this with the person you're thinking about, if it's your son or daughter, niece or nephew, and go, what are the things I think that person needs to learn, or a skill that they need to develop, or a list of skills, and what do they think that they need to develop? And then look at that and see if you can connect up any of those things from one side of the sheet to the other, thinking creatively, and come up with a program. I really like your thing about the win-win, Spencer. I think if you approach those internships and jobs that way, then it's going to be a super positive experience versus that, oh, I need some help. So I'm going to take the kids and they have to work in the business.
Yeah. Brooks, have any
I think
thoughts
it's
on
that
that?
it's like Wes was saying, you can do make the T-bar, the person's name and then what the business needs. You can also, back it up a step and say, well, what am I hoping to teach, these young people coming up? What am I, and that can go back to your own experience. Well, what do I wish I had learned more of when I was, had some opportunities? What more could I do? And then you could see how that applies to what your business needs are and what the needs of that individual are, and see what comes out of that. I mean, as we were having this discussion, I just think of, oh man, there's so much more I could have done.
Right.
But when you're in the midst of it, you're just scrambling. And so I think that's the message is, hey, we're all scrambling to make a living. So it's taking that 10 or 15 minutes and saying, gee, what would be helpful for the business? What would be helpful for my family? What's the kind of training I'm trying to provide? And then trying to get those all to come together.
Yeah. I think, try to provide as much challenge as possible without breaking that person, I mean, you want them to be successful, but you want them to feel, I keep using the word press. That's not the right word. Maybe I said a better one, but I give you an example. So I had a terrible fear of the phone, growing up. I didn't want to call people, if my mother said, oh gosh, you need to call so-and-so and order this or talk to them about that. I could not stare at the phone and not pick it up. But with Puget Sound Builders, we had to call lots of people. And I think my sisters also were not too hip on using the phone. And so we'd all just sit around, stare at the phone, and we would rotate around who had to make the call.
Roll the dice.
Watch the other person make the call. Okay, you're going to call the roofer. So hey, I need to get a roof installed in this house. And you go, well, how many squares do you need? Like, what's a square? So it really forced you out of your comfort zone and helped you do some adult things. And so I look back on those things fondly, and they really did help me quite a bit.
I look back on that terror so fondly.
Yeah, right. I look back at that fondly now, 42 years later.
Yeah.
It's true, but I mean, those growth experiences are always the ones that are the most satisfying. You go through a challenge, you overcome it, and then you come out on the other side and you go, oh, it wasn't so bad. Or now you're just more comfortable with it. So then it really isn't so bad anymore. And the pain disappears pretty quickly.
Well, or you come out on the other side and you're like, yeah, it was terrible. It continues to be terrible, but I can do it.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, but you're really looking to be a hermit crab, right? And shed that shell and keep growing into a bigger shell and a bigger shell and a bigger shell. And so I think that's a good thing to look at, and is, once again, what can that student or child learn and really help them be successful later.
And this is something you can do for anybody.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Anybody. I mean, we had programs in our business where we would reach out to the high schools and kids who are trying to go through trade school or learn about businesses. And we did all these different programs. You can link up with your high school or your junior high, and they want to have kids come in and see how it works. And so even if you don't have kids, or there's not, your kids are grown and gone, I mean, there's so many opportunities to help other people learn about business and learn. So there's all different ways to do that, for sure.
Yeah. And I'm glad you mentioned that, because we're actually just ramping up kind of a full-time internship program where we're going to have interns that come in for 3 months. We'll probably have 1 or 2 active all the time. And then they're working on our own company stuff, kind of learning, you're experimenting, you're doing, things that you didn't have time for. And then as the company grows, you look for those people that are superstars and you go, great, let's pull them into full time. And so I think, looking at it as just a project basis, like, hey, I'm going to do an internship for 3 months. It's going to be this win-win environment is a good place to start. But I think you can take that vision and expand it too, and just say, hey, this could actually be a great way to find talent for my team as I grow the company. And if it doesn't work out, or you're not in a position to hire, it's an easy way to kind of test, and everyone still walks away. What's that?
You did a great thing for them. That's
totally. Yeah.
And that's why we tried to push it down into the high school level, because there's just so little vocational training around business and things like that, there aren't any of those classes anymore. So you can get into the DECA programs or any of kind of the trade-based programs, and just you provide those opportunities to get out and see businesses. So the high schools have them, and it's a great way to definitely give back. You'll get some benefit, but mostly you're helping those kids figure stuff out and come from very diverse backgrounds.
Yeah, super good point. And I know we're running out of time here, guys, so maybe let's wrap with a couple final thoughts on creating opportunities in a family business. What would be maybe some final takeaways for listeners, or just parting words of wisdom, Wes?
I guess I go back to what you said, Spencer. I really enjoyed that thought of trying to come up with things that are win-win or win-win-win, so I always look at it from that lens. And then I once again look at what skills that you think you would like to see developed, or whatever your son or daughter or whoever you're thinking about, what kind of skills do they really need to develop to be successful in life? And is there something that can help you that will help them to get those skills in place?
Yeah, I'd agree, Wes. I think regardless of who you're helping, we all can look back and say, gee, I wish I had learned more of that, or I wish I had learned more of this. And taking those life experiences and putting them together and saying, gee, these are all the things that I think are really important for someone to learn, and work it into your program. And, you're going to get something good out of it no matter what. And that individuals, hopefully will come out of that with, they'll come out of it with a love for what they did, or, a strong dislike, but that will help them,
either is helpful.
Yeah.
And I think one is helpful for sure. Yeah.
I think one requirement is you always have to make them write an essay at the end of the summer going, what I did this summer.
But I would recommend that you always pay.
Yes.
Pay something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
This is not working for free. There's an exchange, and that's a helpful learning tool, which is, I'm getting paid to do this work, and that's what and make it what it's worth.
Yeah. Providing value.
Yeah. Providing value. For
sure. Cool. Well, good advice. And yeah, thank you guys. And thanks everybody for listening. If you have any topics you want us to ramble on about, go ahead and send us an email over at radio@builderfunnel.com. But hopefully this has been helpful and kind of inspired you guys to get out there and maybe look for these opportunities and get creative, think outside the box a little bit. And we will see you next week on Building Family Business here on Builder Funnel Radio.